Hello everyone, thanks for joining us for another edition of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers. I'm Jim Cardle. While the Texas State Legislature is in its final few weeks and focused primarily on tax cuts and the state budget, another issue of great importance is that of border security. Nelson Balido is a frequent guest here on Insider TV and is also a contributing expert to Fox News Latino and is president of the Border Commerce and Security Council. Bobby Brown is with the Telephonics Corporation that's in the middle of implementing a border security dragnet and technology that's not yet been enforced. What's the status of border security as the legislature wraps up? We're pleased to be able to visit today with Nelson Balido and Bobby Brown on Texas Insider TV. Nelson and Bobby, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here with you.
Happy to be here with you. Thank you.
Let's jump right into it. I know you're on the run and have meetings around town today to secure the southern border. Nelson, you're a former guest of ours. We appreciate both of you coming in. And as I mentioned, and as a Fox News contributor, Fox Latino and other news sources, let's just start off, if we can, with a basic update and overview of the border. There's been a little discussion here lately. We've certainly covered it about a possible resurge of undocumented illegal children. There's a lot of focus on the legislature, which is focusing on border security. What's the latest you're hearing on the border? How are things for security on our Texas border?
Well, I think if you look at a reboot of the United States Border Patrol, one of the things that Secretary Jay Johnson moved last fall and is going through final approval process now is a joint task force configuration. Joint Task Force West, which is actually going to be out of San Antonio, Texas, is going to be headed up by a 3-star commander. Anything from San Diego to Brownsville on the operational side will be reporting there. You'll have a 3-star admiral out of Norfolk, Virginia from the United States Coast Guard that will be handling a lot of our maritime borders and also the Gulf of Mexico and interdiction. And then lastly, you're going to have the Joint Task Force Intel Branch, which is headed up by Homeland Security Investigation, other known as ICE, out of Washington, D.C. All the units will overlap and help each other out to ensure that there are decisions being made on the ground, not just from Washington, D.C.
So this is something new. I mentioned in the introduction you've had experience with the Border Trade Alliance, worked with all the southern border police departments and Chamber of Commerce. You're talking about a new program implemented from the Department of Defense and Homeland Security, correct?
Well, yeah, so that's interesting. So it's almost like Department of Defense tactics, and what's been certainly been proven in the field and in theater. And Homeland Security is adopting a very similar scope by having these joint field offices. Listen, at the end of the day, if the local control is left to someone in some office in Washington, D.C., certainly that's where things can possibly go wrong. We want to be able to give, and I think what we're seeing now is give those folks in the field that control to be able to make certain purchases, know what the equipment. Some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. obviously just doesn't always know what's best for that guy that's out there 10 hours in a truck in the middle of Val Verde County, close to Del Rio, Texas, or the same way if you're in another county in southern New Mexico. Those guys know their field best, their area best, and we should give them the tools necessary in order to be able to accomplish their mission and come home safely at night.
Well, let's drill down into this a little bit more. I know a lot of our viewers think of border security, they think of one big task force or one big police force, but actually there's the Border Patrol, one wears blue, one wears green,
That's right.
Then there's also the Border Customs, ICE. Talk about, if you can, a little bit about the differentiation there and particularly which one you're talking about.
Okay, so ICE is normally they're plainclothes police guys. They're more investigation, enforcement, immigration and customs enforcement inside the country.
Okay.
The guys in green are the Border Patrol. These are our frontline men and women across our United States borders are actually surveilling that border in between the ports of entry.
And they don't vary off the border, if I understand.
Well, they're
correctly.
right. They're mainly on that border. And then you guys have the guys in blue, which are our customs officers. They have a very similar operation as the guys in green, but they're very much focused on those ports of entries to ensure safety, trade, and travel of our goods and services and people that want to just come over and visit us.
So one force is, in fact, in charge of more or less processing people, vehicles that come across the border. The other ones are the ones tracking folks down. If a drone comes over into the heart of Texas, they're trying to track them down.
Yeah, so you have an investigative branch. Guys in green are in between the ports of entry. Guys in blue are on the ports of entry.
Gotcha. Okay, folks, I want to thank you again for joining us for another edition of Texas Insider Television, brought to you by the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers. We're talking with Nelson Balido and Bobby Brown. Bobby, let me jump over to you real quick because you're in the field providing technology services, machinery that actually is implemented in the field. Tell us a little bit, if you can, first about Telephonics, and tell us what you're working on and what sectors you might be in.
Telephonics is a New York-based company involved in the aerospace industry. Telephonics entered into the Homeland Security field back in '01 with their ground-based radar, the ARSS. Border Patrol adopted that very quickly. What a ground-based radar does is allows the agent to look forward some 12 kilometers and identify objects that may be of interest, only identifying that they're there. Telephonics then grew that concept into an entire sensor suite, into what we refer to as the Raven Mobile.
Okay.
And that system is mounted on the bed of a truck. There are currently 44 of them deployed with Border Patrol throughout the country. Their deployments range from El Paso, Del Rio, Texas, up into the Detroit sector, up into Swanton, Vermont, over into Washington, so in all types of climates. That system is constructed of a night camera, a day camera, the radar, and then inside the cab is their own very own command and control station that allows a single agent to track multiple items of interest. Now, what's an item of interest? It could be a single individual, it could be a group. I will say that I've been on ops for the last 10 years. I have seen groups as small as 1 and up to 20 individuals marching through the desert in the middle of the night. This allows Border Patrol to interdict these individuals at their pleasure, not the IOI's pleasure. Meaning that previously, and Border Patrol still is very proficient at tracking, but this allows them to interdict at areas that are powerful for Border Patrol, as opposed to just bumping into them in the middle of the night. They manage these groups. They manage these groups in off of the border, so they can have a safe resolution to a problem. This actually saves lives. There was an agent lost his life in San Diego. I will say that Commissioner Aguilar stood on the spot and said if we had had one of these mobile systems, this never would have happened. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the fact that we're giving these agents these tools to be able to manage the border.
So we all know that it's a very dangerous type of scenario that border security, border patrol agents get into. I guess you're talking about there's human trafficking, there's drug cartels, there's all kinds of illegal immigrant activity. You cover any and all and work both with the state and the federal organizations.
We do. We cover all of those. And we watch and we become the eyes and the ears. An agent in the middle of the night in a desert, I mean, imagine that. It's actually very terrifying to a regular individual. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. We are able to acquire a target of interest out to 12 kilometers. The agent can then slew a camera and look at it in the middle of the night with a night imaging camera and determine if it's a threat. We can determine whether they're wearing body armor, whether they have a long rifle, whether they have a pack on the back of dope. We can determine if there's children and if there is a problem, so that when they are interdicted, they can bring the appropriate items with them for a safe closure to that event.
Nelson, let me jump back to you real quick because, as I mentioned earlier, and you addressed it a little bit, but I want to get in further. There has been at the legislature, and I think maybe secondarily at the national level, certainly here in Texas, more talk about another wave of illegal immigrants. Is there a seasonal nature? Are we, in fact, to believe what we're hearing, that in the spring through the summer here, there may be another surge, so to speak, of illegal activity on the border?
We never know. I guess the season depends on what Washington dictates of what that season is. Depending on what you're looking at as far as an amnesty bill or some type of legislation that may confuse folks that are south of the border, what happens is you have these cartel members that take legislation that may have passed or is looking at passing, misinforming people south of the border, and really it's mostly Central Americans because there's not many Mexicans crossing the border anymore. They have, 5.1% unemployment rate there, a lot of work happening. Unfortunately, they're getting a lot of their jobs taken away from Central and South Americans now, which is very, very interesting.
And you and I have talked about that. When the Mexican economy was weak, the U.S. economy was strong, people were streaming over the border.
That's right.
A lot of folks don't realize that now the Mexican economy is strong.
That's correct.
So the Mexicans in particular have stopped coming, but the Central America folks.
That's what
still.
you're saying. So about 80+% in some areas is Central and South Americans, mainly Central Americans. So you have these cartel members that go in there and spread this misinformation, and for $7,000 to $8,000 a head, they'll certainly traffic people through over the border. But one of the things that's very important that we can't miss, and why the Raven mobile system is absolutely important, is because it moves with that threat. No longer are we held hostage to a integrated fixed tower environment that cannot move. As that threat moves, and we've been proving it in many places, one day it may go through Del Rio, the other one's McAllen, the next way it's Otay Mesa, or whoever it is, to be able to have the opportunity of moving the assets at the state and certainly federal level where that threat is, that helps ensure that we're covering all bases and we're as nimble as the cartels are, because certainly we know how nimble they can be. With these types of units out there, it absolutely gives us that coverage, that absolute coverage that we need to ensure that, again, our men and women protecting our borders are coming home safe at night.
In that regard, Bobby, let me jump back to you, because the state of Texas, we like to think that we're doing a proficient job, that we're certainly the front line in the border security effort, stopping this illegal activity from coming in. You mentioned that you're everywhere from Montana on the northern border, certainly to the southern border. How does Texas compare to, say, New Mexico, Arizona, maybe some of the southern states in terms, as far as you can tell, of our activities, our proficiency, and our overall efforts?
Texas is very progressive in their actions right now. Texas is leaning forward. We've had some very powerful meetings here in Texas. We're looking forward to a demonstration yet this summer. There's a great interest in Texas itself obtaining systems of their own to be deployed on the southern border. Border Patrol has been very effective with it. Understand that once these systems are put into place, once you arrive at the location, in under 30 minutes it's up and operational. Under 30 minutes it's up and operational. When it's time to conclude, if you're only there a couple hours, it takes less than 15 minutes to knock it back down and prepare for transit. So you usually can go to multiple sites over the course of a 10-hour period and drive the traffic where you want it to go. The people in Texas have seen that. They're very moved by it. They see the need for it. And down in Del Rio has become a real focus point as of late. The individuals, the traffic there has really been stressed up.
Nelson, I'm going to let Bobby have the last word here as we keep an eye on the clock and respectful of your time. You mentioned, Bobby, that 45 of your units are in use out in the field. Texas, I believe we say, has about a 1,200 mile border with Mexico. How many, if you know, of your units are actually on the ground in Texas, and how many, I guess we could theoretically use one per mile. Is there a range to quote-unquote secure the border?
Well, the range is flexible, and I will say that Texas has a very meaningful number of systems. This is about the best I can do.
Okay.
I will also say that currently we're going through an operational evaluation of our latest revelation of this. It's like an Apple 6. It's much friendlier, it's much easier to use, it's much more powerful. Over in El Paso, it's going very well. Upon the successful conclusion of that, I think Texas can look for many more systems to come in.
Okay, actually, Nelson, real quick, as a Fox News Latino contributor, what are your coming articles going to be focused on? What's on the horizon?
Well, certainly we're going to talk a little bit about energy in Mexico with the whole energy reform and how that's going to affect the energy market in Texas. We're going to continue looking at the border, what's going to happen with perhaps the surge of unfortunate immigrants that may be misinformed coming into the United States. And certainly we're going to focus on technology to ensure that Texas has the right technology, the Border Patrol has the right technology, because really that's the force multiplier effect that's going to make a difference on our borders.
Well, speaking of force multiplying, we're going to let you all get on the road and go implement some of that. But we appreciate you coming by. Folks, we've been visiting today with Nelson Balido of the Border Commerce and Security Council and Bobby Brown with Telephonics. We appreciate you joining us for another edition of Texas Insider TV. Remember, you're either an insider or you're not. I'm Jim Cardle.